Modern live music isn't always about keys, guitars, and drums. It's also about iPhones, mixers, iPads, and all manner of ancillary items you need to perform. And they got to go somewhere that's secure and accessible. And with that, here are some ideas about how to mount things. I like to use GoPro mounts. As you can see on my existing keyboard, I have lots of these going on. 1, 2, 3. To get them off, you'd want to be a little bit careful. It involves a hairdryer. Go to the website to make sure that you follow the instructions for that so that you don't damage your equipment. So my absolute favorite use of using GoPro mounts on my actual keyboard are to mount iPhones. Let me just show you what it is. Right, these are the constituent parts. One, you've got a GoPro mount, and this particular GoPro mount has a swivel, like so. They call it, hold on, it's called a swivel mount. That's the box that it comes in. Sorry, there we go. And it's just a lot more useful. Normally that would be fixed in that position. Not great. They're not the cheapest mounts, but I like them for their flexibility. You can get like these GoPro mount to camera mount adapters. This is not a particularly good one, and it's worn away, and you know there's a risk of doing some damage because this is just a cheap accessory. I haven't found any really good pricey ones that I like. Let me know in the comments if you find if there's like better ones of these. But why they're great is because I can pop that unit in here like so and screw that in. That's really strong. And then the last piece of that puzzle is an iPhone holder. This particular one is from Manfrotto, and I like it for a few reasons, including it's quite a strong grip. Like sometimes they can be a bit weak. And second, because not only do they have like a holder at the end, like a screw in at the end, but it's also got a screw in the back. And that is the key, because that's the one I'm going to be using in this circumstance. I think it's a lot more stable than putting it on its end. So let's just do a bit of this. Let's just make him nice and tight. There you go. All right, that's on. So now that that's together, how do we use him? Well, I'm glad you asked. You can see I have one of my GoPro mounts on the board here, and what I can do is just slide that in, and we have an iPhone mount. By the way, there is actually, I think, a right way to put them in. I don't like to put them so that the mouth opens downwards. I like to put them so that the mouth opens upwards. Your mileage may vary. If you do it the other way around, you'll manage to get it closer to your board, and that may be suitable for certain purposes. For me though, let me get some demo phone. Great, for me, that is how I'd use it, and that's good to go. Okay, you can see that I can adjust it left and right, and I can adjust it up and down, and that's the advantage of using that particular mount that I referred to earlier that GoPro sell. Okay, what's next? My second favorite use of GoPro mounts mounted directly to a keyboard is to mount small HDMI monitors, which I'll use if I'm using VSTs as part of my live performance. So if I'm using Gig Performer or Main Stage or whatever your poison is, I use a Mac Mini. I don't use a laptop. So the most subtle way I have found of mounting a screen or having a screen available when using a Mac Mini is to use a small DSLR HDMI monitor. This one's made by Neewer. It's the F200 model, but I don't think they sell that anymore. The F100 model will do. You can battery power it, but I don't. I'll tend to use the 12 volts. But the reason that we're here today is that you can see that again, it's mounted to a GoPro swivel mount. And I just want to show you how that happens. Again, it's very similar to the camera mount. I'm using a slightly different adapter here, but the principle is the same. This is a particularly terrible one, but it works, you know. So if I put that back on, And then we put him back on. And then we can whack him on the keyboard. Actually, what I'll do, and I'll pop him in like so. Okay, so same deal there. That's quite secure. It's actually really subtle. Now you'll note that if I've got a second tier of keyboards, I probably can't put it in this location because the second board will get in the way of that. That's why I have this mount down here, is I can mount this same thing in this location, and if I've got a second tier, then that's no problems. You could also, at a stretch, mount a mixer directly to your keyboard. So what we've got here, right, so what we have here is the BMS 10A mount, which is made by Yamaha for Yamaha very compact mixers. Let me show you. Right, so this is an MG10XU. They also have them on, sorry, Freudian slip, MG06X. They also have these mounts on the MG10. That's why I got a little confused. And what you do is you screw this mount onto the back. Right, and now that that's on, you can get these units. I find these to be really versatile. These ones are made by Camvate, C-A-M-V-A-T-E. Not sure you can see it there on the back. And that's like an American style microphone thickness on that side. And on the inside is camera thread thickness. So now that that's in, we can put that on top of that kind of arrangement that we spoke about before. You'll notice this is on a non-pivoting, a non-swivel GoPro mount. Let's pop him in. Close enough, I think. Actually, I've done a slightly bad job. So this will slide on this way, which is a bit not great. So let's just make this so that it pivots the right way. Yeah, close enough. I mean, if I play with that, you'll get a bit more steady. I'd normally have this on my right hand, not my left hand. But the principle is sound, right? It moves a little more than I would like, and I think the risk of damage to a keyboard is more than I would like. So I'm not saying I would go with this, but it's an option. Okay, and with that, I think we've exhausted all of the options that I might use for mounting things directly to a keyboard. Now, let's take a look at mounting things on the stand instead. Hey, sorry to segue for a moment, but it really helps when you hit the like button, and it's even better if you hit the subscribe button. So if you found this useful, please smash them. It's free, but it helps me out a ton. And now back to the mounting. And one of my favorite things to do is to use these mounts from OnStage, and these get inserted into your X stand in this instance. Anything that's kind of circular and fairly standard width will kind of work though. And then you can screw it and tighten it and use it to mount things like the mixer that we looked at previously. Let's do that. I'll take off the, albeit slightly dodgy mount. Let's take him out. That was tough. And we can screw in this OnStage unit. All right, let's roughly line him up as straight. And importantly, you know the plug that comes on the end of your keyboard stand bits? That needs to be out, so you need to pull those out first. And actually, when you buy these, I'm not sure if it's still the case because it's been a long time since I bought them, and they have changed their functionality just slightly, but they give you these plugs to use, you know, where there used to be the factory plug, and I think they're really good. It's a shame they don't sell them separately. I would buy more of them, and I'm quite sure that I've lost most of the ones that came with the ones that I bought. But, all right. Now, I'm a stickler for these things, so let's just make sure that he's 100% lined up straight. Give it a twist. Give him a bit more right turn. Good, this looks like it's just about ready to go. You'll note that I've mounted this on the left-hand side, which is where I like them. That's a winner. Next, I'd like to speak about these microphone stands. So this is a quick lock microphone stand, and this is a quick lock X stand. So I'm not sure if they fit non-quick lock X stands, but you can see that they slide onto the end, they tighten up with this bolt there, and they can be adjusted at 2 points in and out, around the back and around the front. One thing to bear in mind is that these will transfer shock. As you play, they will transfer shock through your microphone line and will be picked up by front of house or whatever monitor you're using. So I strongly recommend that you use some sort of shock adapter. Like this is one that Shure sell. I don't find it to be particularly versatile, and I gotta be honest, I haven't tested this one in anger just yet. But something I have tested in anger are these super cheap ones that you can get on Amazon. You don't have to have that wind pop on there. You'll see that, I don't know, it fits on a stand mount, and a microphone slips in here. Let me see if I can show you that. So they might go through like so. Right, and that allows some movement in there. And I got to tell you, I have found these to be reasonably effective, and they're super cheap. You don't need to get one with this addition on there for the wind pop. And these bands can go, but I replace them from my hardware store. I think it's just like a standard gasket of some sort. Might work to be replacement bands for those. Anyway, bottom line is this is a super cheap way to isolate your microphone from the knocking of your keyboard as you play it. All right, so how about mounting iPads? For iPads, I like to use these super cheap iPad mounts, which are designed for bikes, like so. And then I can just get an iPad. And that's kind of in. Yeah, I would say that's a winner. Yeah, that'll move around, up and down. Got to be a little bit careful about clearance there, so I might need to put that a little bit lower. But you get the idea, that's mounted, that'll work. Now I know what you're thinking, you might use the iClip from IK Media. Now I don't particularly like this unit, right? One, it is really expensive, and two, I use it a lot in this right angle position where it's in its most right angle most point. So when it's not like that, when you use it straight out like that, it's just fine. But when you put it into the right angle position, which it's designed to do, I mean, there's a notch for it, so they want you to do it. But when you do that, there's no grip on the ball that provides the pivot. So it moves really easily. Like I'm not really trying very hard at all, and that's moving. Whereas if it's in that position, that's not too bad. Like that will work. But I use it like this a lot, and it moves a lot. So I do not rate these units at all. Another option I like for mounting iPads, but the jury's out on this one a little bit, so this one is at your own risk, are these, well, I got this one from Niwa. You'll see the branding there on the back. And you'll see they can mount onto, which way do we want to do this? They can mount onto an iPad. But I worry, if you squash it too much this way, does it wreck your iPad? So for me, the jury's out on this, and if I were doing it, I'd either do it with a case. This should do with a case. And I'll just do it just enough so that it's, you know, gripping. I wouldn't go overly tight, that's for sure. And then what you've got here is, you see I've got like a standard, just like a gooseneck, and on the end I've got like an adapter to take it from US size microphone to camera size. This Niwa has got a mount on the bottom and a mount on the back. I like them when they have mounts on the back, so let's do a little bit of that. Make it twisting tight. Now we got to worry about how do we mount that onto a keyboard stand. So one option. Now I actually use this item from Ultimate Support, so you can see that there's a clamp and it grips onto a circle like so. and I can twist that on the end. And then I can get that unit. And I can mount that to the stand. There you go, that feels about right. And this is ace, right? This works really well. Like in this case, it's blocking my buttons just a little bit, but I really like how neat that looks. Yeah, that's a really neat looking mount. But as I said, this Ultimate unit, I'm pretty sure you can't get these anymore. So what is some more practical advice there, Paul? Well, friends at Small Rig make these clamps. Actually, this is only part of that clamp. Let's show the full clamp. Right, they make these clamps that are super versatile. They normally come with some sort of camera mount. They're okay, you know, they're not great, but the clamp bit is great. So what I can do is, well, take off just the pivot head part, which leaves this. I can then get our old friend from Camvate again. Remember, that goes from camera to mic US size. Let me just do rid of this. We can screw that on. And then I can screw that into the bottom of the gooseneck mount. Then what we can do is we can pop him onto the stand, and again, if anything, that might work a little better, except I don't like it that way. Oh, I mounted it upside down, but you get the point, right? Like that should be at the top. Otherwise, that's great. That's actually a better result than we had previously, and you can still get those Small Rig units. They're still being made. All right, do we have anything else? Another way to mount an iPhone, if we want to get rid of that, are these units from IK Multimedia. Now I know I bagged on the iPad version, but these iPhone mounts are really good. So just unscrew it. Right, mount him to mic stand like that. And that will hold even a fairly large phone quite well. This is an iPhone 6 for reference. I don't know about the super big ones now, but that'll fit quite nicely. Sorry about the abrupt cutoff to this video, but it had already run long. Let me know what you think. Will you use any of these ideas? What do you think I should know about? Let me know in the comments. And remember, the only difference between Paul and a pal is you. Oh, that's terrible, Paul.